but not when you hold me. Your beauty weighs on me. This feeling's too good. Hey, listen!
Xenophobia. A word that conjures up images of some sort of alien, or perhaps a fear of some sort of monster. In reality, it is nothing so fantastical. And while monsters and aliens can be scary, the realities of xenophobia are a true horror that plagues societies and cultures even to this day. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, xenophobia is defined as a fear and hatred of strangers or foreigners, or of anything that is strange or foreign. Or more simply put, a dislike of people not from your own country or culture. Xenophobic ideologies have been given a greater spotlight in recent times. And as Americans, we have seen a sudden rise in xenophobic tendencies within our culture. And one of the best ways to view a culture is through film. The films that we make and watch often show the ideas and the feelings of the time. Movies often depict social issues that a culture struggles with and are a perfect indicator. The two films that I chose to depict, and that I think best depict and examine xenophobia, are Children of Men and Lone Star. The reason I chose these films is that they relate very well to modern day issues. Children of Men was released in 2006 by Universal Pictures. It was written and directed by Alfonso Cuarón and produced by Strike Entertainment and Hit and Run Productions. It was shot with 35mm film and color corrected to seem more like a documentary. The reason for this is that Alfonso Cuarón wanted to make the film feel more like documentary or newsreel footage rather than a hyper-stylized Hollywood movie. Cuarón wanted to depict the realities of dystopian Britain and the realities of a modern-day immigrant or foreigner entering into dystopian Britain. Children of Men is a fantastic film that shows how xenophobia can take over a society. After the world falls apart, England is the only country left standing, and they implement severe anti-immigration policies caused by and that lead to further xenophobia. The immigrant refugees who try and enter the country are called Fugees, a derogatory name for these people. These refugees are shown to be all ethnicities, an important fact. This form of xenophobia has very little to do with who is coming into England, instead the fact that all of these people simply want to come to England. The refugees and Children of Men are treated very poorly. We see large amounts of hatred directed at them, and large amounts of violence perpetrated against them. They are sent to massive ghettos where they live in squalor and poverty. Cuarón paints a striking similarity to the Holocaust and the work camps the Jewish people were slaughtered in massive quantities under Nazi Germany. This is not an accident, and he does so in order to show the lack of humanity. The immigrants are treated as subhuman animals and a menace to society. They are denied their most basic human rights. In addition, attempting to aid refugees is a crime and is a punishable offense. We see that the Fugees are ignored and treated like pests. Cuarón demonstrates this when Theo gets off a bus at one point. Everyone simply ignores the women and children begging for help from their cages. They have been locked there simply due to the fact that they come from another country. Xenophobia has prevailed, and as a consequence, the English people are unsympathetic to the suffering of their fellow man. It is no coincidence that Key, the first pregnant woman in 18 years, is a black refugee woman. Cuarón expertly depicts the inhumanity of xenophobia and how dangerous it is, pushing us from compassion and love towards hatred and bigotry. Alfonso Cuarón is able to expertly frame the tragedy of an immigrant story under the veil of the story of humanity's first new baby. Lone Star is a neo-Western film, which basically means that it's a Western film set in the modern day. Lone Star is set in the 90s with flashbacks to the late 50s. It was written and directed by John Sayles and produced by Castle Rock Entertainment. Lone Star was released in 1996 by Columbia Pictures. In Lone Star, Sam Deeds is the sheriff of a small Texas border town who must deal with a 40-year-old murder. The setting of the small Texan border town Frontera perfectly encapsulates many American views of Mexico and modern ideas about immigrants, and how xenophobic many of these ideas can be. The white Texans treat the Hispanics and immigrants poorly, and some are obviously racist. Words like wetback and spick are tossed around nonchalantly, showing how obviously racist many of the residents of Frontera are. Much of this attitude comes from a sense of superiority. In 1836, Texas gained its independence from Mexico through a 6-month-long bloody conflict that included such famed events such as the Alamo. In this vein, the Texans believe that because they won, they are entitled to the land and are somehow better than Latinos, not because of something that they did, but because of a war that happened almost 200 years ago. Many of the characters are terrible, but the character of Charlie Wade is almost certainly the worst. Wade murders someone attempting to sneak illegal immigrants into America. This is partially due to the fact that Wade is not making money out of this deal, but also it shows his disdain for immigrants and his blatant xenophobia. The Texan teachers resist Pilar's attempts to add more Latino-centric material because they say, "We won." Many of the teachers argue that some Mexican culture is fine, such as food and music, but the rest is unacceptable and should not be allowed into the county's learning material. Even Buddy Deeds, the hero of the film, abuses his power and oppresses many immigrants. Xenophobia is an unfortunate reality that many in today's world face. Immigration is a fact of the modern world, as more people are immigrating to and from other countries than ever before, especially to America, where people are in search of a better life and the American dream. Immigration laws tend to target people of color, especially those who come from third world countries. While many would argue that this is not racism, it is a perfect example of discrimination based on skin color and culture. You see, a rose by any other name is still a rose. Racism and xenophobia are on the rise in America. America elected Donald Trump as president, the leader of the entire country. Trump campaigned on the idea of building a wall across our southern border in order to keep immigrants out. He began his 2016 presidential campaign with its speech disparaging Mexican immigrants as criminals and rapists. Yet despite what Trump says, a study published by the American Immigration Council shows that immigrants are less likely to be criminals and that higher immigration is directly associated with lower crime rates. Donald Trump ignores the facts of the matter in order to further sell the idea that immigrants are bad and further propagate hatred against foreigners and immigrants. Trump passed a law preventing people from Libya, Sudan, Somalia, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Iran from entering the USA, even on a legal visa. These are all Muslim-majority countries, and Trump called for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. Donald Trump, the leader of the United States, said in 2017 that 15,000 recent immigrants from Haiti all have AIDS, and that 40,000 Nigerians, once seeing the United States, would never go back to their huts in Africa. This man is in control of the United States, and yet is a bigot and a racist, and wants to keep immigrants out of the US. It's blatantly obvious. In addition, we have seen a fast rise in the far right. This is a group that believes that whites are superior, and embodies fascism and Nazi ideals. This is the reality that we live in. More and more people believe that immigrants are bad for our nation, and that people of color are dangerous. Xenophobia and racism go hand in hand. You see, birds of a feather flock together. As Theo and Sam reject the racist xenophobic ideas of their culture, so must we do the same. America is a country built by immigrants. Over 99.99% of the United States population is descended from immigrants or are immigrants themselves. So why did our ancestors deserve any more chance than those people who arrive on the doorstep of our country today seeking a better life for themselves and their family or safety from tyranny? Thanks for watching.
Not when you hold me.